Hey everyone, thank you for coming back to the Proof of Pain podcast. I have a very special guest today. I'm very excited. I have Aiemann Zahabi. He is a UFC fighter. I don't know how many years I've seen you in the UFC, and I'm so glad that you said yes to showing up on the podcast. So, can you give people an introduction on who you are and a little bit of your background?
Hey guys, well, I'm the number six ranked bantamweight in the UFC right now. I'm on a seven-fight win streak, and I recently beat Marlon Chito Vera, Jose Aldo, and Pedro Munoz in that streak. And I've been training my whole life since I'm 13 years old till now I'm 38 in martial arts, and I've learned a lot of life lessons in a lot of different ways throughout my journey. So that's a little bit about me.
That's awesome. So, I know that I believe that you live in Quebec, right?
Yeah,
Did you grow up in
Montreal.
Quebec?
Yeah, I grew
Montreal?
up here. Actually, in Laval, which is like the twin city with Montreal. And then now I live in the North Shore, so I'm a little bit further from the city. I'm 30 minutes away. I live in the suburbs called Blainville.
I've heard Canada is kind of, from some people, Canada is amazing. From some other
Yeah.
ones, tricky. What's your
Yeah.
experience so far?
I mean, for me, I absolutely love Canada. Like growing up for me, I grew up in like the golden age kind of. So like we never locked our doors. I was like one of those kids when my mom would tell me, just come back just before dark. And I would leave with my friends on my bike on the all day on the weekend,
Yeah.
from the morning to, and we'd come back for supper. And my parents never had to really worry about me and stuff like that. So like for me, growing up here was incredible, But unfortunately, in the last 10 years, there's been a little bit of a shift. And like now, like my dad has like five bolts on his door, like different lock
Wow.
systems and all this stuff, and violence and crime have really shot up. So everyone's locking their door, and you don't let your kids go on their bikes all day without knowing where they are, and some people don't even let their kids, walk, like go through the neighborhood alone. So things have changed. I love Canada though. Still, I'm hoping to be a part of the whole like making it what it used to be, bringing it back, and just living true to the values that I grew up in. Hoping that we can see it back. Like where I grew up in Laval, um, it was beautiful, but now it's like a lot of violence. So I moved to a suburb in Blainville, so my kids can grow up in the same environment I grew up, 30 years ago, 20 years ago. So there are still some parts of it that are beautiful, but the major cities, it's kind of went the wrong direction. Hopefully, we can get it all back.
I think you will. I think Canada's. I've never been there, but I've met a decent amount of people from Canada, and they always say the same thing. It's, well, first of all, just nature there. I mean, just everything, the landscapes, how many things you have, trails. Everybody only speaks good things about that. Where it gets a little tricky is when it comes politically or economically. That's where it gets.
Yeah.
Where I've talked to some people, which we'll get to later. Some of these Bitcoiners that are moving out of Canada and going to places like El Salvador just because they just don't agree with the politics. Can you give me some background on how you even got into martial arts? I know your brother's a world
Yeah.
famous coach.
Yeah.
Did he get you into it, or was it something that you always were kind of gravitating towards?
Yeah, well, no, for me, I was gonna go to high school, and my father didn't want me to get bullied in high school. He was kind of worried about like how I was gonna be treated because I was very short. I was going into high school at 5 foot tall, and I weighed like maybe I don't know 120 pounds. So I wasn't very big. I was small. So he told my brother Firas. My brother Firas was already training,
Okay.
and he told my brother Firas start taking him to the gym over the summer. So by the time the summer passes, he's more confident. He can handle himself in high school and things like that. So yeah, I started going to TriStar when I was 12, 13. And then at first I didn't like it because at TriStar at the time, all the guys who were training there were mostly between the ages of like 20 and 30. So there wasn't many guys my size. They're all like men to me. So nobody really wanted to train with me because I was too small. So my brother would do a lot of the workouts, but also he was training guys. So it wasn't always the easiest thing. But then when I started getting good, like a few years later, and my brother started letting me teach the classes because my brother would start flying with like, George St. Pierre and a lot of these big names. So whenever he'd leave town, I would start teaching the classes and I started helping some of the amateur fighters and some of the pro fighters and ended up becoming my brother's assistant coach. Then I started cornering guys, and by the time I was 18, I was cornering guys in the UFC. By the time I was 21, I told my brother, I'm like, hey man, I'm like, if I'm as good as these guys, you know, like maybe I can go pro. So then I told him like how about we make a deal? I leave university, and if I don't sign to the UFC by the time I'm 30, I just go back to school. Like school's not going anywhere. School's easy. I mean, it's there. So he's like, yeah, okay. He's like, let's do it. And then I signed with the UFC at 29.
That's great. Did you feel that when you were practicing with or sparring with some of these uh like some of the pros, even at your young age, like around 18, were you confident enough? Did you know that your skill set was there? Or did you feel like, man, I want to get there and I gotta improve? Or was it just naturally like did you feel that you belonged there?
Yeah, you know, because MMA is like such a diverse sport. There's like three big facets, right? There's the striking, there's the wrestling, and then there's the grappling on the ground part. And depending on which guy, in certain areas, I far exceeded them, and in some other areas, I wasn't as good as them, right? So like, in some ways, I was better than them. In some ways, I wasn't as good as them, but it gave me a confidence. And like in fighting, you never know how it's really gonna play out. And then you have to. It also comes down with strategy and like when you train your weaknesses, but when you fight to your strength and your opponent's weaknesses and things like that. So by the time I was 18, 19, I felt super confident because the guys in the UFC were asking me to be there to corner them, to coach them, to help them get better. So I was like, okay, like I'm almost like I'm there. I'm there. You know, now
Yeah.
it's all about fine tuning and keeping the path, you know, and just getting better a little bit every day and eventually I can do it.
I can only imagine just being in that world. Just having people like George St. Pierre, your brother, all these UFC pros that you
Yeah.
see them on TV and you're like, man, it's like I'm training with them and I'm handling myself. I can get there. Like I
Yeah.
could just, if I just commit myself to this. But some people have they can be a little overconfident
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not have the
yeah.
skill set. So it's a tricky thing. So I wonder how your brother, like, it would be
Yeah.
interesting to see what your brother's perspective was on that. On that, how was working with your brother, like the pros and the cons of that, or
Oh, well,
is that you're still working with him, obviously.
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, the pros and cons are there's definitely cons, there's definitely pros. Like obviously he's my brother, so he loves me. So I get a lot of attention, but I also get a lot of heat. Like nobody gets insulted or and made fun of or like humiliated more than me when I do something wrong. When other guys do something wrong, like he kind of doesn't affect him as much. But if I mess things up, it's like it's a heavy weight for her because it's like you're my brother, you should know. But
Yeah.
we're all human in a way, and talking about like the whole, keeping your ego in check. I very fortunate that I had, two incredible mentors, my brother and George, and both of them, like even now, if you were to sit in the room with them, you wouldn't know how successful they are if you didn't know the industry. Like if you met them and you don't know anything about MMA, you wouldn't know George is this mega superstar. You wouldn't
Yeah.
know Firas is a star. You wouldn't know, and they're both successful financially as well, not only in their careers, and they both have their personal lives too, their successes, but they're so humble that who am I to be an egomaniac? Who on our team is allowed to be? And like for me, I put them all in check. Like any of the young guys when they think their head is still hot, I'm like, listen, GSP doesn't talk like that. He can his accomplishments can dance circles around you. So I don't understand how you could talk to anybody that way. So it's nice to have mentors who set the tone. And George is still in the gym, 3-4 times a week, and Frost is there every day, of course. So yeah, I'm blessed in that sense. I had some good mentors. So that's kind of like one of my advantages too.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's great to have that combination. Humility is such a big part of it because when you have such good examples, I think you're pretty lucky there having
Yeah,
St. Pierre and your brother that have succeeded to the highest levels and coached to the highest levels, and seeing them be humble is something that I think a lot of people could learn from. Not just in your industry, in every industry, in finance, in business, or whatever. It's like it's so easy to get cocky, but the
yeah,
reality is that the highs can quickly become the lows. Um, I think a lot of people don't really see that. TriStar has had tons of success there. I mean, George St. Pierre and
yeah,
tons of other people. What do you think? What does TriStar do differently that other gyms don't to get that success?
yeah. I mean, it's I think what it truly is that we are very consistent in our training, and we expect you to come in every day and do what must be done daily. Not we don't have a atmosphere where it's okay to come and go as you please and you think you're gonna make it. Like George is 44 years old. My brother's 46 years old. They're in the gym 6 days a week. You know, George now he's only there 3, 4 times a week because he's always gone the other 3 or 4 days a week. Like he's doing his gigs, whatever, all over the world. He's doing different jobs like movies, commercials, podcasts. He's traveling, but he goes to the gym 7 days a week, 6 days a week. So whether he's in Montreal or he's somewhere else, we know he's training. So they've established this like it's not it's a lifestyle, right? So every day it's part of life. Like what else are you gonna be doing if you're not gonna come train? If you really want to reach the top, we know the formula. It's your life. Your life is the game. So it's. I feel like that's just the culture. The culture is you come in here every day and you do the work, and if you do that, you can expect some return. If you don't do it, don't expect any return. So that's kind of the message that we keep even telling the next generation. And I feel like it's a very clear message, very simple message.
Yeah. How does TriStar and how do you personally handle, because you guys work so hard and you guys have to be 100% day of or close to 100% to get that win. So how do you guys handle when it actually goes south? Like nobody wants setbacks and nobody wants to lose, but what's the mindset of you and the team when things do go against you? Sometimes it's referees that just make the wrong call. Sometimes it's the judges lately. There's a lot of weird judging. So how does that work? How does the mindset, the mentality, how do you become positive or how do you keep positive in that kind of situation?
Yeah. Well, for me, like the way my brother sets it up for us is that like if you did everything you can or everything that we asked of you in training and you lose, it doesn't really matter. But if you didn't really give it up your all, then we've got a problem. We gotta sit down. We gotta talk. You know. So because like in the end, all you can do is prepare your best, and you want to fight your best. So I hired a mindset coach like before my Pedro Munoz fight because you know even then when I give everything I can in training. You have demons in your mind, and I wanted to have a system. The way I have a system for fighting, the way I have a system for jiu-jitsu and an approach to create openings and whatever, I wanted to be certain that on fight night I'm locked in, you know? And with my mindset coach, we worked on a lot of different exercises about visualization and we can't only think about things going well, but things can go bad. And how do we deal with those things? And what is our perspective on the things that go bad? So, I do a lot of internal training, but it comes down to like this like quote that I've heard many times. The more truth about yourself that you can accept, the further you can go. So it's important to have self-criticism, and it's important to have people around you who can criticize you, and you don't take it that like, oh, they hate me or they don't like me and that's why they're telling me that. No, they're telling me the criticisms so that we come out on the other side, we improve it, we change it, we plug in the holes that we have in our game. So you have to be able to accept criticism, and I think it's a really important. And a lot of fighters do it even on my team, but me, even when I win, the first thing we do is we go to the hotel room and we dissect the fight. And we find all the things that I did wrong. And it's funny because my mindset coach was like, he works with a lot of athletes, varsity teams and university teams and professional fighters and professional athletes. He's like, I don't know anybody who does that. He critiques himself like night of, you just won. You go backstage, and I do it because it's like it's a life thing, right? So I'm gonna fight again, and I can remember now my emotions and my thought process of the fight now, and I'm gonna forget it in 2 weeks. So let's go over it now, and I want to go over it again. So for me, it's like I feel like I try to handle as the most truth about myself as possible, and then I know I'll improve.
Yeah. Is there any tips that you can, I mean, you mentioned visualization, but any other tips or tricks that the regular person can apply, like a business owner, even somebody in school, how these mental models can kind of
Yeah,
apply to the everyday person? Like what can you learn from that?
I I think the most important thing you can learn is perspective. So even if things go bad, we don't really know it's bad for a long time from now. It's like the Chinese farmer story. You ever hear that story? Right? So it's like something right now, in the moment, it feels bad. Like, oh, I was hoping for this, but I got this. So, like, for example, me, my first time, I fought in the UFC. I had won my first fight, and my second fight, it was going to be in New York City, Madison Square Garden. And I thought it was going to be this big, beautiful moment for me. And it's going to be incredible. George St. Pierre is the last fight on the card. I'm the first fight on the card. And I thought it was going to be like this passing of the torch moment, you know? And after the second round, my brother's like, that's it. This guy doesn't have anything for you. Go out there and finish him. And I threw caution to the wind. And I became so aggressive. And I told myself, actually, at one moment, I'm like, one more left hook, he's done. Boom. I wake up, I'm in the hospital. And I thought it was horrible. Like, I just got KO'd for the first time in my life. First time I fight in the U.S. I'm fighting, you know, one of the most legendary stadiums on earth. And I thought it was like such a terrible thing to ever happen to me. But now, 7 years later, I'm the number one defensive fighter in the UFC roster right now. You know, it turned out to be a blessing because now I can fight against the most dangerous strikers. You know, I fought Cheeto, who's got 11 knockdowns in the UFC. You know, he knocks down so many fights. He even knocked me down when I came back and I still beat him.
Dude,
You
that
know,
was a
so
crazy
it's
fight.
like, yeah. And then I fought Jose Aldo and he missed weight by 8 pounds. And he's a murderer. You know, my brother calls him the final boss. Like, the guy ain't coming to, you know, out
That's
grapple
so
you.
good. That's
He's coming
so
to
good, yeah.
rip your head off, right? So it's like I went from getting KO'd early in my career to becoming one of the best defensive fighters. So the philosophy is even the worst things that happen to you could really be the best things. So it's, you know, you should always have the idea that, you know, whatever's happened to me bad now could be something great later. You know, and it's a perspective to have. It's not easy because we're human, but I definitely think that's what I try to do all the time.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And it's obviously working because, man, when you fought Cheeto, I mean, we're kind of skipping Aldo, but I mean, those two fights, I was like on the edge for real, especially after like chatting with you a couple times. I'm like, man, now I'm like invested. And do you think that you overcoming that forearm break and coming back and after getting knocked down, and you went through a couple things in that fight to get to where you came back? I think the third round was yours clearly
Yeah.
because I think the second round was the one where you had the knockdown and the forearm, right?
Yeah, and I still finished the round stronger than he did.
I know.
Yeah,
That's to me when I saw. Again, you know, not to sound like a fanboy, but man,
yeah, no.
I was. It was like it was Bitcoin. It was, it was
Yeah,
literally like it
yeah,
was all kinds of emotions, and it was like a
yeah,
roller coaster. It was
yeah,
crazy when I saw that, and when you came out in the third round, and
yeah.
then finding out your forearm was broken. It's like, dude, it's a combination of just grit, you know, like hard work, your mental models. Like, what do you think pushed you through it? Was it the mental model part of it, or was it just your personality?
I think it has to do with obviously the hell I went through in terms of the physical training, right? Because like you know I got to the best shape of my life to do the fight, right? So like I had like my durability is up. My body's in such a good shape. It could withstand that capacity of damage and whatever. So that's definitely one of the points. The other part of the point is my mindset going in. It's just like no man, keep doing the work. And I came to the conclusion when I talked to my mindset coach every week, and I was like, you know what? I realized that like when athletes do great things, they're just working. They're not thinking this is the moment something great is going to happen. Like Tom Brady, when he's in the fourth quarter and he's got 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go and he's got to score I don't know how many freaking touchdowns, he's just like, okay, I'm going to take this play and I'm going to make this happen and I'm just going to do it. But at the end of it, you look back and it's like, whoa, this was incredible, man. How did I do this? Or that football player, I'm going to butcher his name, but the Shaquan Barkley or Shaquan Barkley, when
Shaquan,
he did
yeah, yeah,
Shaquan
yeah.
Barkley when he did that juke spin jump. I don't know how did he come up with? Did he practice that? Probably not. He was probably just like, oh, I'm gonna do this move right now because this is what's in front of me, and he just did it. It's one
Yeah.
of the most incredible highlights ever in NFL history. You know,
Yeah.
but to him it was just work, and that's one thing that like I've been working with my set coach is no matter what happens in the cage, just keep doing the work. And like, even when I fought Aldo, uh, he hits me with a cross, he rocks me, hits me with a knee. Then when I go down, as I'm trying to get back up, he sucker kicks me, and I literally leave the ground land on my back. And when he was kind of trying to give me the finishing blow, I hit a tripod sweep. But when I was in the air and I was floating, I was just like, just do the work, like win the next exchange, just win the next exchange, win the next 15 seconds, and win the next 15 seconds after that, and just start building momentum. That was the self talk. It wasn't like, oh my god, he hit me with this, and I gotta come back and do this specific thing. It was just like, no man, just keep grinding, and then so for me, like, the training is it becomes very grueling, and like, Frost is a very experienced coach, and he always leverages practice so that it is more intense and harder than the fight. So like, for 2 months or 3 months, depending when they call me for the fight, I'm going through hell every week, and it's kind of like my home now. I was talking to Calvin Cater, who's another UFC fighter,
Yeah.
and he was out of town, and he messaged me. He's like, "Oh, how's camp going?" Because he was like coming, he left and he's coming back. I'm like, "It's good. I'm in hell." He's like, "It's a good thing you run that place." I'm like, "Yeah, I do run hell." Yeah, right. So it's like, it's also mindset. So one thing I like about fighting is what people like. Some people think it's still like very barbaric, but for me, if you really think about it, it's the complete human experience. You have to be strong mentally. You have to be smart. You have to have tactics and strategy and things like that. You have to be strong spiritually, because things are gonna go wrong and you're gonna have to dig deep. So it's the physical, it's the mental, and it's the spiritual for me personally. And the physical, your body has to be in sick shape, because you're gonna get into deep waters, and you're gonna want to quit. But it's easier to quit when your body falls apart. But if your body is strong, it's harder to quit now, because you still got juice left. So I feel like all of that plays a role: the mental, the physical, the training. It all comes together.
I agree. Aldo was interesting
Yeah.
because your brother said it perfectly about him being the final boss, because
Yeah.
that is so true. For
Yeah.
years, you would just see him, his body shots. When he hits a body shot, you see people kind of like float, like they float
Yeah.
away.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so wild to see. I'm glad you gave us a little bit of that picture. But when you're in the moment, because I
Mhm.
think he's one of those guys that you would feel starstruck by, because you see him on TV for so long, and you finally go up against him, and then you finally get hit and you get rocked, and you're like, oh crap, am I going to be one of his highlight
Yeah.
reels? How do you think of that? And then practically retiring him. I know he's kind of come back, sort of.
Yeah, no, for sure. When I got the fight, I told the team, obviously, that we got the fight, and one of my old striking coaches, Conrad Pla, he told me, he's like, right away, he's like, "Listen, I know how the fight's gonna go." I'm like, "Okay." I'm like, "How's it gonna go?" He's like, "You have to be mentally prepared that the fight's gonna start hard. It's gonna get harder, and then all of a sudden it will be easy." He's like, "Aldo is very good. He's very fast. He's very strong, very explosive. But then he hits a wall. We got to get him to that wall. Now, if you can't push him to that wall, you can't beat him. So we've got to get him all the way there." So that was kind of like the mindset going in. So I was training to like have crazy cardio, crazy durability, my physical shape, so that I can force him to fight as many exchanges as possible to get him tired, because we knew he can break. Then when he missed weight, we kind of threw the game plan out of the window, because the U.S. military has done a study, okay, and what they did was they wanted to dehydrate their soldiers to see how much would their performance go down as they get dehydrated. But they thought that the people thought it was unethical to dehydrate them more than 2%. So they dehydrated their soldiers by 2%, and they realized that for every 2% of dehydration, they lost 6% in performance. So
Hmm.
with me going down to 136 and him being 145, it's a 6%. I lost 6% more pounds of water than he did. So he's gonna have a 20% greater performance than me. So now we're like, okay, we gotta, like, my whole push him to the limit. Now he just increased his limit on me. And one thing we knew was that, like, at 45 he didn't break, but at 35 he was breaking, and we thought it was because of the weight cut. And now he didn't make the weight, so it's like now he's got this cushion. And I was worried about him having more power, right? Because he didn't dehydrate. So like me, I shrunk down, and obviously it's gonna costs in different ways, and we don't know those costs what they are. So anyway, so we said, you know what, let's round one take it a lot easier than expected, and we'll pick it up in round two. And then that's what I did. So round one, you see I'm moving a lot, and he looks super aggressive. But then there was a point in round one where I started smiling, because I finally figured out his timing. And then I got him against the cage, and then you see the last minute and a half of round one, it was him against the cage, and I was forcing the exchanges. I had finally figured out how dangerous things were and where I could be safe and how I can do the exchanges. And then the game started, the original game plan, instead of starting from the first second of the first bell, I started much later in round one. But then, yeah, eventually he ended up catching me, and it turned into hell for me. But then once I withstood it, he literally broke physically and mentally. He wilted. He looked at the clock. He was trying to hold on to me, pull me against the fence. He wanted to slow the action. And I was pouring the action on because I had trained for that. I trained that eventually we're gonna go through this hell, and then I will stay composed, and he's gonna fall apart, and that's when I'll take over. And it came to fruition, which was very nice. I'm so happy about.
Yeah. Watching it was crazy. And okay, so here's fanboy question. When you're
Yeah,
in there and you're in the moment, is and there's so many people, there's so many lights, there's so many things going on.
yeah,
I can only assume that you're so locked in that you can only see Aldo
yeah,
or whoever's fighting you
yeah. That's it.
and the voices that you know, so your corner.
Yeah.
Is it like that, or is it something else? Do you ever get distracted, or is there like flashes and cameras and people yelling and ring girls
No,
and all kinds of crazy stuff? Like how what's the experience of actually fighting?
no. For me, it's only him. Like me, I only see him, and I only hear my corner. Like I can't tell the lights, nothing. Like it's funny because even when the fight ended, and my brother picked me up on his shoulders, and Aldo got picked up by his corner on his shoulders, and I was looking into the crowd, and even then, I didn't realize we got a standing ovation. Like I'm so high and in the moment that like I'm seeing, but I'm not seeing. And I only realized we got a standing ovation when I went back and I looked it on the tape. I was like, man, people stood up for us. Even Dana White and Hunter were standing. They couldn't believe it. Like, so it's like, it's a surreal moment. Like, you don't really register that kind of stuff. The only thing that matters is like the fight and giving your best and focusing on the important things. You don't have, I feel like, and if I did hear the fans or if I noticed them, I wouldn't be operating fast enough. I'd be too slow. So you need to dim all that stuff down because yeah, I think it interferes with your decision making.
That's a good point. Yeah, yeah. If you're not locked in, like you can't, you have to be locked in, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's no higher stakes game anywhere. I mean, literally fraction of
yeah,
a second and you slip and you're like, oh, ring girl, knocked out. Do you ever feel that the referee, there's almost like hesitation on the referee and he's kind of confused and he just stops it just because
mhm,
he already took a step? Like he already
yeah,
committed to stopping it when it
yeah, yeah,
shouldn't, it could have gone maybe a couple
yeah.
more, give him a little more chance. What is your perspective on referees now? And I guess for judges too, I feel like the last year at least, there's been so many fights where I'm like, what were they watching?
I mean, it's getting better in a certain way, and in other ways, it's still not good. So it's one of those things. It's evolving because as the referees terms though, I feel like it's better overall. The judging, I feel like it's hard. It's hard for them to judge with the criteria they're given. Like like now, like from my understanding, number one is damage. It supersedes everything. So even if let's say you scored three takedowns on me, but you didn't score any damage after you took me down, and I get up and I land one punch, I'm ahead. I land one big shot. That should be it. That's my round now. So then it's like, okay, well, if damage is close, then we go to the next criteria, and I think the next criteria is control time. So if you did score the takedown, even though you didn't do damage, if you're controlling for 2.5 minutes and the guy didn't, and you and the guy's damage is equal, the guy who control. But now let's say if that's equal, then where do we go? Okay, now it's aggression. So it's like it's a lot of things that are like
And it's so subjective, right?
subjective. That's the word I was looking for. Exactly. It's so subjective, and the judges are sitting in different places. So maybe they saw my punch land. One judge thinks it's significant. The other judge doesn't think it's significant. So it's like I feel like we haven't nailed down the perfect scoring system yet. And for me, in my opinion, one thing I would love to change. I don't know if people are gonna like it, but the fighter should know the score.
Well,
Like,
Helwani's, I was going to bring that up. Helwani's been pushing that hard for years
yeah,
now.
like I would love to know if I'm down. I would love to know if it's 1-1. Like, why can't
Yeah.
we know? Like in NFL, the scoreboard is there. NBA scoreboard, hockey. Every sport has the scoreboard, man.
Yeah.
Why can't we have the score? I don't understand. It's like I get like when somebody said that. I think one time somebody from the UFC staff had said like, yeah, but if you're up two, you're just gonna coast. Yeah, but then the other guy's gotta go get it.
Yeah. That
And
doesn't make
like
any
the more
sense.
the guy's gotta go get it, the more the guy coasting has a chance to finish him too.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like I don't know. I don't feel like it's a detriment. I feel like it could only make things better, and especially now with with you know the subjective scoring system. It's hard to go to the judges, and sometimes we are shocked. Sometimes I'm watching a fight, and I'm so sure a guy's gonna win, and I've been watching fighting for 20 years, and I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, it is what it is. It's just I think we should know the score so the fighters can adjust with certainty.
Boxing's the only one where they only have that they have a score that we see, but it's not the actual judge score. It's like
Yeah,
I forget what they call it. It's like
it's unofficial
the
scorecard
unofficial
from guessing.
scorecard.
Yeah,
Yeah. UFC, MMA in general, I feel like we're blind. So you don't know, even as a fan, you have no idea where it goes. And you know it's bad when even like Daniel Cormier, Joe Rogan, other people are like, whoa, that just doesn't sound right. And I hear more of that lately, which means something's broken. But
yeah,
the open scorecard, that seems like such an easy fix. And I've heard what you're saying too about when they, yeah, like you're gonna coast, like you're up two, you're gonna coast. That's so crazy to say because it's almost as crazy as the win bonus, in my opinion. Yes, if you win, it's awesome, you have a bonus. But who's not going to win? Like who's going to step into the octagon
yeah,
with like, oh, I'm gonna just get my showing
yeah,
money and just walk away. That
yeah, yeah,
mentality
yeah.
comes from somebody who, because if you're going in there, like how in the world are you going with any other mentality than to win? So
Yeah.
I think they should just get paid. Well, now there's the whole Paramount thing, which I don't know. I really haven't done enough to know
Yeah,
if it's better or if it's worse. I mean,
yeah.
again, I don't want to get you in any kind of situation, but do you think overall is it positive or negative for the fighters, the Paramount
I
deal?
mean, nothing's changed. So I don't know. I mean,
Okay. Oh, that's right, because it's like all the
it's
contracts
I,
remain.
yeah, yeah. Well, I haven't had my renewal, so I haven't fought since. So I'm waiting to see if anything's going to change. So right now, my experience is it's business as usual. I don't know if it's good or bad yet. It's still developing.
So Cheeto was the last fight. You beat him, and then you called out Sugar.
Yeah,
Give me the thought process. Why him? Why do you think he's the best opponent for you now?
I feel like out of my choices, it'll give me the better fight. And like for me, I don't feel like UFC only values wins because there's a lot of guys who win a lot, but they're not loved. UFC doesn't love them. UFC doesn't treat them well,
Yeah.
and some guys are getting cut on winning streaks now. So there is an entertainment value there, and I feel like in terms of some guys I'm gonna be matched up with, we won't be able to give the most exciting fight because the way our styles would match up, it would make more for like a less action. Whereas if me and O'Malley, I know it's gonna be fireworks. Like that's why I
Yeah.
asked for Marlon. I asked for Marlon because I knew he'd give me a sick fight. I knew it was gonna be hard, but I'd rather be in a hard, entertaining fight and win than be in a fight where I win and it's boring.
I think when it comes to straight up entertainment, the two that stand out is for sure Sean O'Malley,
Yeah,
Corey Sandhagen.
yeah,
He's a beast too. Everybody up here is a beast. But those are when it comes to the straight up entertainment. Yeah, I agree with you. Marab is amazing, obviously, but it's a different fight. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Peter
and Umar
Yan.
too. Like if you watch Umar versus Figueiredo too, right? I mean, it's not the most exciting fights. They're not the most exciting fights to watch all the time. So
Yeah,
and
so those I would say those are the two that really stand out to me. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I don't know who else would make sense because obviously you're not going to go down, and if you can avoid it and not fight anybody below you, it doesn't make sense. You're always
yeah. I
going to
want
want
to
to
I
shoot
want to fight for the
above.
belts. I want to try to go up. And
Yeah,
usually UFC, I will say that they're good with that. Because if you're on a winning streak, they usually let you, keep pushing your streak, which is great. So
yeah.
I'm assuming they're gonna give me, somebody from 1 to 5 next.
Okay, let's dream.
Yeah.
Everybody, something happens to everybody. Peter John's they call you. They're like, hey, you down?
Yeah, take it. Yeah, 100%. Easy, man.
How does that?
Yeah. I think that for
That's
sure.
awesome.
Easy, man. I love that. I want to fight. Listen, I'd rather fight for the belt. Like even like when Marab was fighting Peter Yan, I was hoping Peter Yan, excuse me, I was hoping Marab would beat him because then I could probably fight for the belt because he beat everybody else. So I could have been the next title contender. But because Jan won, Jan hasn't beaten everybody. He's beaten a couple of guys, but he hasn't beaten everybody. So he has more guys to beat before I get my chance. So I respect that. But if something happens to everybody else and they call me, they're like, hey, it wouldn't be the first time. TJ
Yeah.
Dillashaw fought a guy on 24. TJ had an opponent. Something
Oh
happened to
yeah.
his opponent, and he fought Joe Soto 24-hour notice. So there is a possibility of something happening, and I slide right in. Yeah, listen, I'll take it.
Dude, 1,000%. I mean, injuries, this, that,
Yeah,
maybe somebody says the wrong thing and and
yeah,
they're out
yeah.
of favor. Okay,
And
so
like maybe
between,
one of them gets divorced. Like this whole thing with Topuria kind of was
yeah,
like,
that's crazy.
isn't that crazy? Like, what are the chances an interim title fight is made because one guy gets divorced? Like I feel bad for him. Like, listen, I would never want anybody to get divorced, and I'm a big family guy. I'm all about family unit. But it's like, what are the chances that happens and now there's an interim champ? They're so small. You don't know.
Yeah. I feel like the UFC is way too trigger happy giving out interim champs for everything. I
I
feel
love
like
them
the
for
last
it.
couple,
I love it. I love it because like they could make you a star.
well, yeah,
Anything that goes wrong, they're so nimble on their feet that listen, from a fighter's perspective, it's an opportunity for us to make more money.
that's a good point.
So, and from that angle, it's like, yeah, as fighters, I love it. Like if something like obviously I don't wish anything bad about Peter Yan, but if something happened to him and they're like, hey man, we want you to fight I don't know who for the interim belt. Okay, yeah, sure, I'm up, man. Let's go. Now
Yeah.
I'm gonna get championship money all of a sudden. I'm gonna go from what I'm making now to championship money. I'll take it, man. Then if if something and he's back and we'll fight again. Whatever.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. I mean, from your perspective as a fighter, for sure, that makes sense. It just feel as a fan, it feels like a little like you're diluting a little bit
Yeah.
of the championship.
I would say it would be cool if they made the interim belt silver, but
That's a good
because
idea.
that way there's a distinction, right? Because
That's a good
really,
idea.
like for how I see it is, you're the official number one, right? So when the champ does come back, there's no doubt on who's fighting him.
Dude, that's a good idea. It's almost like make it design it almost like the BMF belt.
Yeah, I mean, there's not, I don't think it's insulting. Everyone's calling you the interim. No one's calling you the undisputed. So might as well make it a different color, and it's a number. It's basically your solidified number one. There's no doubt. Like imagine like for example this whole thing with Armin Tsarukyan. Like we don't really know what's happening, right? But imagine he had a silver belt. It's like everyone's gonna be like, you gotta give him the championship. He's literally the guy, right? So and then in that way, like it kind of like gives the fighter a bit of security.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that.
I feel like it's an old idea. I'm
The
pretty
silver
sure.
belt. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's awesome because it is kind of confusing because you see the interim belt looking exactly like the
Yeah,
actual
that's a
belt.
little for me. For me, it's a little bit off that it's the exact same one.
Yeah.
It's a bit weird,
Yeah, I
but
think as a fan, that's part of what's throwing me off too. So if you get a call and they tell you it's between Peter Yan and Marab,
yeah,
who would you prefer? Like weird scenario or like they're both
yeah,
down for
yeah.
championship, no matter who do you go for and why?
Well, if for me, I'm thinking Yan because the fight's gonna be crazy. Whereas Marab, I feel like the fight won't be as wild, because I'm gonna have to shut down the wrestling. We're gonna have to keep it
Yeah.
striking, and I don't know how the fans are gonna like me just defending takedown after takedown and scoring a little bit and defending takedowns and scoring a little bit. Like, basically what Peter Yan did to him, I'm gonna have to do. It's to be like defend the wrestling, score a little bit. Like Peter Yan, I thought he did a great job in that fight. He did it amazing. It's just that was it fireworks? I don't know if it was fireworks, but it was a great fight. And I think with Peter Yan, me and him would have a war. Like even him with Sean O'Malley was a really cool striking fight, and
Yeah.
his fights are a lot more on the entertainment uh, side of the things. So I would like that fight more in terms of I think people would remember me better.
I'm looking at the time and I want to be respectful, so I'm going to shift a little bit into Bitcoin somehow.
Sure.
Because
Yeah, yeah, it's all good.
and this is so cool for me to have you on because like I was saying at the very beginning, UFC fighter, complete badass. Yet you're also at this intersection of Bitcoin and to be a shareholder and strategy. And I don't know if any
Yeah.
other Bitcoin treasury companies, but can you tell me how you discovered Bitcoin and when was it and what was that whole process for you like?
I mean, Bitcoin, I think was interesting for me is that like it's gonna sound funny to uh, the viewers, I'm sure, but like we have a TriStar dormitory.
Okay.
So on this, so TriStar we have the gym, and in the same building we have a dormitory for guests to come and stay and whatever. And it's like it's really cheap and it's bare bones, but you know fighters are poor, so we made a place where guys can come train at TriStar, and it cost them very little to come train here. And you know, I was one of the first people to move in there. Even though I lived in the area, I still moved in so I can be in the training. I want to be in the trenches every day, right? And one of the guys came to train from Toronto. His name is Steve Sims, and he was telling me about Bitcoin when we were in there. And at the time, it was like 2000, it was 2013, 2014 or
Wow.
whatever.
Early, man.
And he's telling me, he's like, you gotta buy Bitcoin, you gotta buy Bitcoin. I'm telling you. And it was so cheap at the time. It was like 50, $60. And I thought he was crazy. I'm like, I'm not buying this right now, you know, whatever. I'm like, I'm so poor. Like, I think I don't even have any money. I think I had like $2,000 in my bank account, you know. I'm just trying to make it in fighting right now, you know. I had nothing. So, and it seemed like this far-fetched idea or whatever. And then time passes and it was like, it went up to like $600 or something at one point. And I was like, man, he was telling me about it at like $60. And now it's like up 10x, man, since he was telling me to get a little bit, you know? So then I bought my first Bitcoin around then. And it was like around like, I don't know, $500-600 or something. And uh, then one company, they started doing ATMs, Bitcoin ATMs in Montreal. And then they offered my brother, they're like, hey, can we put a Bitcoin ATM in TriStar? And my brother's like, okay, like, what's the deal? What are you offering? Whatever. So my brother made a deal with them, and we had this Bitcoin ATM machine in TriStar Gym, man.
Wow.
So, and I was telling, like, you know, I was teaching privates or whatever, and I was telling people, like, hey, listen, man, every time you come to the gym, put $5-10 in that thing. You know, get like $5-10 worth of Bitcoin and like just hold it and just save it and let's just see what happens. And like we were telling a lot of the members, you know, like think about it. And then I remember even way before even the ATM, I remember when Ethereum was coming out, and then my oldest brother was like, hey, there's this Ethereum coming out. We should look into it. This guy, he's from Toronto and blah blah blah. And like the first guy we met for Bitcoin was from Toronto. And it's just like, you know, what's going on and this technology and all these different things. So like obviously I didn't buy Ethereum like on launch or anything, and then I ended up buying it later on. And you know, it just made so much sense to me that I can have this money on my phone and I can send to anybody anywhere whenever I want, and you don't have to ask anybody anything about it. Like you don't have to ask for permission, you know, and nobody can stop me from sending the money. And I
Yeah.
was like, wouldn't everybody want this? Like, imagine you know, my brother goes to, I don't know, some country in Asia or whatever, and he needs money. I could just send it to him easy, and there's no limit. I could send him as much as he needs. And I was thinking about it, like, what if you wanna, you know, hire a Chinese company to do something for you? You ship us like, you know, 5,000 T-shirts or whatever.
Yeah.
I can just text them the money. I can just boop boop, it's done. I'm like, this thing's gonna take out. This thing's genius, man. No fees. I can hold it, and I'm not paying any fees every month.
Yeah.
I'm just holding it for free. I bought it. It's mine, and it's free. Now I own it for free. How can I own something for free? There's literally nothing else that you own that's free to own. Everything costs something to maintain. This doesn't.
Yeah.
So to us, it was brilliant. So you know, long-term holder. I just wish I bought more. I wish I wasn't poor.
Yeah.
I wish I wasn't poor. You know, and I wish I'd always been putting money into it. But then you know, I have this stupid thing. It's called a life, and I gotta buy a house, and I gotta have kids, and I gotta you know spend money on training and traveling, and you know I could have been a multi-millionaire. And then you know this whole thing with Michael Saylor is just like I love the idea that I don't have to leverage myself. He's taking on the risk of leverage, and he's so much smarter than me, and he has so his him being a corporation has so many advantages to taking on leverage versus me taking on leverage. So I find it also easier to buy now. Like if I think about it, it's easier to buy MSTR than it is to buy Bitcoin because the regulations are in. So if I want to cash out, let's say for example, I don't have this amount, but let's say I had $10 million in Bitcoin. Let's say for example, I wish I had $10 million. I don't have 10 million, but I wish I did. But let's say you had $10 million in Bitcoin and you're Canadian and you want to cash out $10 million in Bitcoin. You know, it's gonna be hell. You might even get debanked, and they might charge you taxes they wouldn't charge normally. Whereas if I buy tons of MSTR and I either want to cash out or take a loan against my shares, all the rules are in place. So, the whole thing with MSTR and Sailor is he's made it easy to get rich via Bitcoin without having to deal with banks because all the regulation is in buying MSTR. The regulation isn't set for Bitcoin,
Yeah.
so that's kind of like where my mindset is now with MSTR.
I mean, you nailed it. I mean, you pretty much nailed it. We're getting close to the hour, and I know that you have things to do. I just want to wrap up with actually maybe two or three rapid questions. One of them is from
Yeah.
my son,
Okay,
and
great.
so he asks, "What does it feel like to be in the ring and to win?"
It's the most incredible feeling in the world, and I think that's why fighters have a hard time retiring because you know the pain that you feel in training, it's so deep that when you win, the high is so great. So like in anything in life, the more you go through to get it, the the more the better the feeling, the bigger the reward it feels like. It's like I would compare it to like imagine you did a fast for 72 hours. It didn't matter, it doesn't matter what I give you to eat. You're gonna absolutely love it. And training camp is like that. Training camp is like a two month mini hell. So that way when you win, it's like nothing can touch that feeling. There's nothing I pour myself more into than that. So for me, the high is it's so good. Like my last fight against Cheeto, I was high for like almost 3 weeks. I couldn't come down. I could not come down. When I beat Aldo, I was high for 2 months. I couldn't
Wow.
believe I beat one of the greatest of all time. The training camp was literal misery. So yeah, the payoff is huge, and the lesson is if ever you want to be fulfilled, always give everything you have, and you'll always find happiness. Because just the feeling, if you want just the feeling, it'll be fleeting. The feeling is always fleeting, and you can't truly be happy without experiencing hardship. And hardship is a blessing if you're doing it on purpose. It is a misery if it is imposed on you. So find something you want to work hard for, and then you'll always have happiness.
Perfect. Two more quick ones. This is not financial advice or anything like that, but if you
Yeah.
were in somebody else's, if some other fighter were to ask you,
Yeah.
"Hey, do you think it's a good idea to put some of my money or whatnot into Bitcoin? Do you think today, at the prices of where we are, do you still think that's a good idea?"
Yeah, I would definitely. I think it's something, especially now. I feel like it's so cheap right now. It's so low. I some people are on the other side. They think it's expensive, but I think it's so cheap, man. And everything is in its place for it to do well. And we've been here before. I don't know how many downtrends I've seen, but they have no choice but to print dollars. So why not have something that they can't print? Why not have
Exactly.
something they can't make more of? And I mean, once you figure that out, I mean, that's it. I mean, what else can you do? What else can you do, man? I mean, what would you? I would love to own something that no one could make copies of. I would love to own that.
I agree. And the last question, you mentioned it was cheap, Bitcoin.
Yeah,
You mentioned the time frame. It could be a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now.
yeah.
Pick the time frame and give me your estimated Bitcoin price.
I think by 2030 we're at a million.
So it's like with that power law. I think the
Yeah,
power law
exactly.
is around
Yeah.
2030, 2032, give or take, at a million.
Yeah. I
I
feel
think it
like,
has to be with all the money printing.
and I feel like they've got no choice but to do it sooner than that. But that's just my conservative opinion. I feel like every time we try to model out Bitcoin, it does something different that we expect, and everyone is expecting it to crumble. Every time they expect it to go up, it goes down,
Yeah.
and every time they expect it to go down, it shoots up. I don't understand what that is.
I think we're a couple weeks, months away from just again resuming the all time. And then people, you know how it went to 126, and everybody's like, "Oh, I wish I bought cheaper." And
Yeah,
I can't tell you how many people I've met in real life that are like, "Man, I know, but if it was back at 80, 70, for sure I would buy some." And I've talked to those people, and they're like, "No way, man! You seen how the chart looks? You know how this looks, isn't
yeah,
that?" And
exactly.
it's like, well, that this is what you were waiting for. So now
Yeah,
you're gonna miss this opportunity,
yeah,
and then in 5 or 10 years, it's gonna be a, let's assume, let's not even say a million. Let's say 500,000,
yeah,
which is a 10x. Well, no,
yeah,
I mean, let's say 600, whatever,
yeah,
where it would be a 10x from here.
yeah,
It's like, what gets you a 10x in five or
yeah.
10 years? And none of this
Yeah.
is guaranteed because nobody knows for sure. I think it's just inevitable.
I'm just wondering if now, because nobody can explain really why there's a pullback, right? But I wonder if it has anything to do with the Clarity Act, and if the Clarity Act will, give us some juice for the next run. I don't know.
I'm not a macro expert or anything like that, but I think there was a lot of leverage. There were a lot of people betting that 2025 was going to be a crazy all-time high.
Yeah,
I was one of those people, honestly. I really did think that
yeah.
we were going to
I
have a
thought so
much
too.
higher high. Yeah, so I think a lot of people were leveraged long. So, and they were on crappy exchanges that were offshore. So like worse than Binance, and like some random exchanges. They couldn't handle some loads, or maybe their systems weren't really set up for it. So you have that, which I think was the October 10th liquidation that went from like 115 down to 100. I think it was that crazy thing. And I think that trickled. So I think that caused a lot of panic. There's a lot of
Yeah.
fear with the quantum. People are thinking that quantum computing is going to do crazy damage. And I'm not
What
saying
what
it's not a
what
threat.
what can quantum do to Bitcoin that it can't do to banks?
That's exactly it. That's
Doesn't
exactly it.
It's the
Not
same
only
problem for
banks.
everybody.
Yeah, military. So
Doesn't matter.
if that
It's
were to
just
happen, they're going to target military, government, banks way faster
how much money
than,
is in Bitcoin? 1.7 trillion, man.
yeah,
Literally
yeah.
peanuts. You think the guy with the quantum computer is going to come after 1.7 trillion, or is he going to come after 10, 20, 30, 50 trillion dollars worth
That's
of
so good. I'm so glad you
it's,
brought that up. It's so
it's
true
just so,
because,
it's so
yeah,
stupid.
yeah, it is. And you know what? But I will concede that it is a concern, but it's not like it's not being worked on, right? There are solutions being worked on. I think there's
Yeah.
that BIP 360. There's a bunch of there's stuff that's being worked on, and by the time that the quantum gets good enough and reliable enough to do that, it's at current pace. I think it's like the earliest would be years
Yeah.
and years. So if
Yeah.
something were to like be a freak event, they could implement something pretty much right away. Now, the biggest issue that I've seen people say is, okay, you can implement that, but what about the old coins? What about the Satoshi coins that had a million he's got a million coins in an old address that is more susceptible to being hacked
Yeah.
or stolen.
Yeah.
And it's tough. Like, I don't have a solid answer for that, except that this would be the equivalent of your great great grandfather or your great grandfather going to a national park back in the early 1900s and burying a stash of gold. And
Mm-hmm.
then now we have metal detectors that can scan down 6 feet or
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And then they walk around, they found it. And okay, is it fair that they stole it? No. But the technology improves. And if you don't move it, it's going to get confiscated, right? It's going to get stolen. Something's going to happen to it. So it's the equivalent of it. I mean, it's just technology
Yeah.
keeps getting better. The advantage that Bitcoin has is that with threats improving, we also have solutions for
Yeah.
those threats.
Yeah. Of
So
course.
yeah, so if nobody wants the Satoshi coins to get lost or stolen, but if it does, it is what it is. And it's just what are you going to do? So
Yeah.
they dump. The worst case scenario is somebody takes them and dumps them on the market, and the price goes from whatever the price is at the time. It drops. I don't know. Let's say it drops. Let's go crazy and say 40%.
Mm-hmm.
It'll bounce back like it always does. It's not like some sort of special share that
Mm-hmm.
the coins. If you hold these coins, you have more power over the network. It's nothing like that. I think it's just people that aren't too familiar with Bitcoin that are just more
Yeah.
worried about it. I know that your time is
No,
limited.
no, it's all
Hopefully we could
good.
do
Yeah,
this in the
yeah.
future, man.
Yeah, it was great, man, actually. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it.
I think more people need to hear your story and also find out more about you, man, because I think you're going to be the future champ.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll see, man. Final words? Anywhere for people to find you?
Yeah, guys, check me out on social media. It's Aiemann Zahabi on all the platforms. I'm trying to build my YouTube channel. I know I'm not super consistent on that one. I'm more consistent on Instagram and Twitter than I am on YouTube, but I'm working on it, guys. So if you can, give me a follow on YouTube. That's what I'm trying to build the brand right now.
Cool. So I'm going to put all those links down below, and I'm going to see
Thank
if
you.
we add you like a collaborator. And yeah, man, it's awesome. Congrats. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
showing up, and we'll
Appreciate
talk
it.
soon. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And say hi to the kids.
I will, man. Thank you.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao.